Good evening. My name is Jessica Roloff, and I am the current president of the League of Women Voters of the Willmar area. We'd like to welcome our audience members. We'd like to welcome everybody listening to us on KWLM. We'd like to welcome our RAC 8 viewers, and we'd especially like to welcome our candidates who have agreed to be part of this democratic process. We have Tom Butterfield and Sean Muskie here tonight. Again, this is a special election, and we would like to remind everyone that the election is scheduled for November 10th. However, because of changes in the no excuse absentee voting laws, you can vote tomorrow if you feel like you've made up your mind tonight. We at League would like to invite the audience to a couple of events we have coming up. We have our annual book sale, which is our annual fundraiser that helps support the work of the League. That will be out at what was previously known as the Senior Center, which is now known as the Community Center. It's October 15th, 16th, and 17th. And we would also like to invite you to a special Women's Works event that we are co-sponsoring with several other women's groups in the area. That is this Saturday night, October 10th, from 6 to 8 o'clock at WEAC. It is, there will be dance, there will be songs, there will be storytelling, and it is completely free and open to the public. Our mission at League is that we are a nonpartisan political organization. We encourage informed and active participation in government. We work to increase understanding of major public policy issues and influence public policy through our education of voters and advocacy. The purpose of the candidate forums is to give voters an opportunity to hear the candidates discuss the issues of importance to them in this election. I can tell you we certainly have an involved electorate tonight. We have over 20 questions submitted. We will probably have time for about 10 to 12 of them. So please feel free to get a hold of the candidates after tonight's forum if you haven't had your questions answered. The League of Women Voters has a 95-year history of providing voter education. All of our events are free and open to the public. Welcome again to our candidates, Tom Butterfield and Sean Muskie. And I'd like to introduce our League member and our moderator for tonight, Andrea Carruthers.
Good evening to both of you. And welcome all of you in our audience. We really appreciate such a good turnout. And I would specifically ask that we have quiet. Please turn off your cell phones or any other electronic devices. It helps with no disruption in any way, and that's what we want. As Jessica said, we just have all kinds of good questions, and I have tried very hard to go through them and give you a variety of questions so that we, in turn, can really, in all fairness, try to give everyone listening a full understanding of things that are happening in our Willmar community. So we flipped a coin when we started the evening, and we will have Mr. Muskie begin, and Tom Butterfield will follow with just a 2-minute introduction for each of them to explain their own reason for deciding to run for this position. So, Mr. Muskie, you may begin.
Good evening. My name is Sean Muskie, and I'm a candidate for Ward 4 City Council. Thanks the League of Women Voters for putting on the forum. I'd like to thank Jim Dockin for his service on the council. I'd also like to thank Tom Butterfield and Charlie Oakes for putting their name and being willing to serve as well. And extend a special thank you to Mr. Oakes for extending his endorsement of my candidacy as well. Also, thank you to the people here tonight in the audience and those listening to us on KWLM and listening to us and watching us on RAC 8. I am a biology instructor by trade at Ridgewater College, and I've been doing that for about 23 years. Also married and have 4 children, my wife Deb, and my children would be very upset if I did not mention their names, Derek, Peyton, and Brooklyn and Lauren. And so I'm vested in this city. I am very proud to call Willmar my home. My family lives here. My children go to school here. We work here. We shop here. We pray here. We play here. And I'm concerned about our city. In specific, when we take a look at where we're at with this particular election, there's only 2 years left in this term. And I've served on the Willmar School Board before, and it takes you 1 to 2 years to get your feet under you to start serving and understanding how things are made up and working, and particularly in these government processes that can be very, very complicated. And so I have served on the Willmar Charter Commission for a number of years. Since 2009, I'm currently the chair, which means I understand the charter, I understand budgeting, negotiations, policy, and parliamentary process. And so given the brevity of the term of this position, I think it's really important to hit the ground running, and I'm prepared to do just that. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Butterfield.
Well, my name is Tom Butterfield. I'm a longtime resident of Willmar, born and raised in Willmar here. I'm the 5th generation that grew up from this area. I grew up on the east side, graduated from Willmar High, graduated from the Willmar Vocational School and Marketing Management program. Since 2008, I've been on the Board of Advisories for that department of the Marketing Management program for the Ridgewater College. I run a managed local business here in town that does recruitment for area businesses to do hiring for them and find them the top candidates to get their jobs filled. I'm a single father raising my son. He's the 6th generation to be living in Willmar, and I take great pride in calling Willmar my home, and with all the strong family roots that we have here. If elected, I'm going to bring a balanced approach on spending. I'm going to look at the facts, and hopefully my decisions will help me make sure that the residents of Willmar see a positive return on their tax dollars. And if elected, I will represent and listen to the Ward 4 residents, and I will also listen to all residents throughout the city of Willmar to help me bring a complete consensus of the needs and wants of the people from Willmar. And if elected, I'll bring my integrity, my accountability, my leadership, my communication, and my strong work ethic to the council. I hope today that I can prove to the citizens of Ward 4 that I'll be a great representative to the ward. And investing in our community is very important to me, with my family ties to this community for as long as it's been. And again, my name is Tom Butterfield, and I'm running for the Ward 4 for Jim Dockson's seat that he left.
Thank you very much. Now, our first question. What changes, if any, would you make to the priorities in the current city budget? What changes, if any, would you make to the priorities in the current city budget? And we'll begin with Mr. Butterfield.
Basically, what I'm going to have to do, I'm going to have to listen and see what the residents of Willmar wants to see. The biggest thing I'm hearing from people are roads and infrastructure going on right now. So I would have to take a look at that, and that's also an interest of mine, along with city parks has always been an interest of me, because I take my son to the parks, and they're just not the same parks as when I was a kid growing up here in Willmar. So I would really have to take a look, full understanding, take a look at the balance to the budget and see what can be done to it.
Very good. Mr. Muskie.
Well, I've read the city park plan, and I have read the pavement management plan, and we have plans, and I think they're good plans, and they have budgets tied to them. So if we can find creative ways to bring more money into and make those plans happen faster, I'd be amenable to that. But immediately, just looking at the $3.47 million budget, I would say a lot of things are being addressed that should be. I think some of the other initiatives, such as some more industry enhancement, I would be totally in favor of doing things like that. Some funding for Vision 2040 that wasn't put forward, I would have probably thought that would have been funded for sure. Hopefully we'll talk about that later this evening. I think a lot of the initiatives that are in that plan are very healthy for the city. We need probably more long-range planning as far as the other aspects of the budget are concerned. I think our city is lacking a little bit on strategic planning. I think budget planning, we have ideas, but it would be really nice to have a strategic plan to know where our goals are heading to in the future. So I don't know if I'd tweak a whole lot of budget pieces now, just some of the pieces I just mentioned, but I think for sure we would need a plan of moving other aspects forward.
Good. The next question. Do you have any experience with or comments regarding the Minnesota open meeting law? Do you have any experience with or comments regarding the Minnesota open meeting law? And we'll begin with Mr. Muskie.
I served on the Wilmer School Board, and I had to attend open meeting law training. It's one of the only elected positions where you can't serve until you actually go through the training. So I've actually sat through open meeting laws, and they're put there because they matter. We don't want the business of the public happening behind closed doors. You are supposed to be out in the open and let everybody know exactly what the issues are. When people hide behind doors, they make decisions and already have them made before they hear from the voters or the constituency. That is something that is in bad form. We'll just say I have stronger opinions on it, but it's some of those things that they make the laws for a reason. It's so because, well, we're elected for the people, by the people, and when you hide behind doors and make decisions before meetings occur, that's not doing things the way that government is supposed to be done. We're public servants.
Very good. Mr. Butterfield.
That was one of my major concerns when I started with this is, we've read it in the newspaper about the council with the open meeting laws. It was just in with the Wilmer School Board. That's one thing I'm going to have to sit down and really read through and totally understand it so I can make sure that I'm not going to be a part of that. I want to be able to be open and with all the residents of Ward 4 and City of Wilmer. This one major concern I have is understanding that law.
All right. Very good. Thank you. Now, here's a little longer question. What is your plan to address aging infrastructure in our parks, our streets, our city-owned buildings, including the historic city auditorium and city offices? What is your plan to address aging infrastructure in our parks, our streets, our city-owned buildings, including the historic city auditorium and city offices? And we'll start with Mr. Butterfield.
Yeah, that's one of my top priorities on here is roads and city parks. That's what I've been hearing. And I'm not afraid to spend money when need to. And right now, the more money we spend on the roads, the cheaper it is going to be for Wilmer in the long run because our costs keep on going up every year after every year after every year. And city parks, again, ties dearly. I take my son to parks all the time. And I also can help the city with my product knowledge from Mike McBroom from doing sales for him for a number of years. He's one of the foremost experts in Minnesota on how to build tennis courts, basketball courts, and sports fields. I got the product knowledge of him that I can go up to our city engineer and say, hey, this is the way we need to spec this out. We do it correctly, we do it properly. It's going to bring in a long-term life to the tennis court or basketball court. There's big concern about, I've been hearing from people about Rice Park's tennis courts not being updated. So, I mean, that's a big contributing factor I can bring to the table.
Very good. Mr. Muskie.
Roads and parks are important, and we have plans for those things. We've hired experts in this city that basically give us advice of how to maintain those things. And I think that we probably need to listen to the advice of our city planners and engineers that came up with a fairly thoughtful process. In my world, I deal with data all the time as a biology instructor. And so when I hear people talk about, for roads, we talk about there's more that goes into a plan of that. You talk about where water mains are, sewer, stormwater, funding sources, traffic volume, and a rating system, from 0 to 100 that put things on a priority list. I think we should stay with the priority list that we have. And I think the park plan that came out is very thoughtfully done. If we want to accelerate those, again, I think if we can come up with creative ways to find financing to accelerate that, that is great. But we have a plan. I think we should stick with it. If we can accelerate it and find creative ways that people have talked about, could we go in with the county when we do road plans, or can we go and talk about doing things every couple years? Those are great ideas. For historic buildings, I live and breathe that. I love downtown Wilmer. I just finished a project with the Historical Society called Downtown Transitions, and we talked about the buildings and infrastructure of downtown. I've been involved with the Wilmer Downtown Design Team as well. I think anything we can do, and we've talked about even doing tax zones and things like that, anything like that can improve the downtown area, I'm in favor of.
Thank you. On to another question. Much has been said about the level of conflict in our current city government. If elected, how would you address this issue? Much has been said about the level of conflict in the current city government. If elected, how would you address this issue? And we'll begin with Mr. Muskie.
Well, if I'm elected, I promise to act with specific guidelines and principles. I believe the business of the city must be conducted with decorum. I can separate personal and professional. The business of the council must remain focused on the needs of the community, not individuals and not personalities. The council is a team and should be working together to achieve its goals. City council members are elected to be policymakers and not replace the function of city employees. I would take that responsibility as a decision-making very seriously. I always question, challenge, and dialogue when developing a position. Once I have a position, I debate with passion, conviction, and logic, but compromise. And compromise is something that I think is sorely lacking in our current government, and especially our city government. It's necessary to be able to find common ground. So I would lead by example with those principles.
Very good. Mr. Butterfield.
You know, that's an absolutely great question, and that's why when I started off my campaign, I've been paying on my own dime. I've been offered donations. I've been turning them all down. I truly want to be coming into this on an equal playing field. So I don't have any business owners or residents saying, I contributed, we need to push this way. I'm walking in here with an open mind, clear focus, to be able to look at the issues on hand, to be able to do it. Along with that, I'm bringing my integrity, my accountability, my communication skills, my leadership skills to the table. And you can count on me to do the best job I can to be a unifying influence on the City Council and for the City of Willmar.
Very good. I just want to mention to our audience, especially our listening audience, if you would like to call in a question, you can tonight. We're receiving some of them. The phone number is 320-212-2285. 320-212-2285. We'd welcome your questions. Here is one we received just a few minutes ago. Are you in favor of changing the city administrator job to having the more independent status of city manager? Please explain your response. So we'll begin with Mr. Butterfield.
Right now, I would have to say no from everything that I know about it. Our charter is basically we're a strong council, weak mayor system. We need the voice of the people out there, and that's how we're going to get it. If we push it over to type of dictatorship, our voices as a residents are going to be lost, and we really need our voices heard when times get tough.
Very good. Mr. Muskie.
The city administrator position, on the Charter Commission, we actually tried to put that into the charter, but we took it back out and it's by ordinance. The job description is laid out. One of the difficulties you have is it's very difficult to change the charter. It's not so difficult to change the ordinance, and I think the City Council will need the flexibility to adjust that job description as they need to. We have never looked at, on the Charter Commission at least, as changing what the foundation of what our governance structure is here. So I think a city administrator has served us well. It will continue to serve us well. We just need somebody in there sooner than later. So I would not entertain changing and making somehow a city manager a stronger force. We do have, by charter, as Tom pointed out, we do have a strong council, weak mayor system, and a lot of cities do, and it has served Willmar well, and I think it will continue to do so in the future.
Very good. Another question. How do you feel is the best way to lead forward with housing problems in Willmar? How do you feel is the best way to lead forward with housing problems in Willmar? We'll begin with Mr. Muskie.
I think housing is something, and particularly in Willmar, we have, I remember people talk in the past, they said, well, we have a lot of homes for sale. Well, not everybody can afford a home in the city of Willmar, and so we need more housing that's affordable for low-income housing, and I think it's a problem that we have now, and I think it's going to be worse. we have established families in this community that still have more family that are still going to be coming here. And those families, when they get here, need places to live. And so I know we have investigated, I know there's plans out there to investigate what are the housing needs. I look forward to seeing the results of those as they come in, but I have an inclination of where they probably already will be, in that the city of Willmar probably has some needs for additional housing. So I would say I'm waiting for information. And again, I like to make decisions based on data, and right now it's an inclination, but I'd like to see more of that information.
Very good.
Well, that's a very, very good question. I would go as I have been in the past and promote home ownership. Sean will know exactly who I'm talking about here, but last year a friend of mine was complaining that she was paying too much in rent, living in Pennock, having to pay her own propane bills. She was wrapping herself and her daughter up during the winter with blankets, trying to save money on the heat. I knew a friend that went through a low interest rates program for a home loan, told her to go and check it out. After a few months, me talking to her about checking in on this information, she finally went in, got approved for a loan, and she just became a homeowner June or July, Sean?
In June.
In June. So, I mean, here's a single mother, was wondering how she was going to do it, and now with the capabilities of some federal programs out there, she's a homeowner now versus renting, saving probably around $300 a month.
Next question. What are your thoughts on leading a town as diverse in age, ethnicity, and economic status as Willmar is today? What is your thoughts on leading a town as diverse in age, ethnicity, and economic status as Willmar is today? We'll begin with Mr. Butterfield.
Well, I'm all for it. We're going to need the retired people. They're the ones that are going to have more life experience than myself. I listened to my grandparents talk all the time about growing up in the Great Depression and everything else like that. We haven't seen it. We had a little bit of a recession here in 2009, and that information they gave me helped me get by through with my business and what I had to do to survive, to keep the bills coming in, and we need the youth that come up with new ideas, to help us grow. So it takes a whole community really to move Willmar forward.
Good. Mr. Muskie.
Well, first I'll tell you that the person that Tom was talking about is my sister and sister-in-law, and I'll put a shout out to her daughter Isabel, who's probably watching right now and just freaked out when she heard her name. Okay. With that said, I'll let you know, Willmar is a diverse community, and I think that diversity is an asset, and it needs to be tapped, and we are currently not tapping it in the way we should. We have all kinds of opportunities to serve this city. A lot of, and for instance, one of them that is one of that I really am surprised is our Human Rights Commission sits vacant. When I first moved to this community, I served on the Human Rights Commission, and that was a conduit of voices of some underrepresented people getting their voice into the city. I would totally want to see that reinstated instantly, and that would be a way to start bringing new voices in. That is our greatest asset, are our people. The city of Willmar is its people, and we need to start involving all of them in this process. Many of them have been neglected and forgotten, and we can't do that. What makes this city great is the involvement of everyone, and I can't emphasize it enough. I know I probably just said it 3 times. I'll say it a 4th time. We need all of our people involved in this process, whether they be elderly, newcomers, everyone. That's what Willmar is about.
Very good. Would you want to be involved with hiring employees, or would you give this responsibility to the department heads and city administrator? Would you want to be involved with hiring employees, or would you give this responsibility to the department heads and city administrator? We'll start with Mr. Muskie.
Well, I mean, we hire a city administrator, and then we let that person hire other folks. I guess that's how I would want to do things. Again, I see my role on the city council as a policymaker, not as someone who would be looking to be hiring all kinds of folks or doing other folks' jobs. We hire these people, and they do the best job. And if they don't do a good job, I will entertain letting those folks, recommending that they leave or be let go. Absolutely. But everybody, you hire them, let them do their job. They have a chance to shine, or they have a chance to fail. That's how it works through all the other parts of employment. city council folks, I don't know if we need to be in the business of hiring people beyond the ones that we supervise laid out by the charter. Otherwise, let other people do their work.
Mr. Butterfield.
I totally agree with what Sean said there. I would be, if the city staff wanted input, I'd be more than willing to do input. That's what my career is right now doing, is I'm doing recruitment. I know how to interview, how to find the right pick. Sometimes I'll go for the underdog on it because they are showing they have enthusiasm, they can do the job. But I'm not going to be a micromanager. I'll ask feedback from department heads. If they want help, I'm willing to help them out. If they don't want the help, I'm all fine with that too.
Very good. What are your thoughts on privatization of work of various departments, including mowing on city properties? What are your thoughts on privatization of work of the various departments, including mowing on city properties? Mr. Butterfield.
I believe we have a maintenance department right now that could probably handle that. I can't see why we would have to spend more money to hire a private person to come and do that when we already have the equipment and already paid for.
Mr. Muskie.
I'll make that quick. I actually agree with everything you just said. If we already have people that do the job, let them do their job. I guess you could entertain if there was a large contract that showed a tremendous cost savings. I suppose that's something we probably should consider, but it would be hard to fathom that would be possible if, in the instance of mowing, we own the equipment. It would seem very difficult. But I guess it's not out of the realm of possibility if there were huge cost savings, but that would have to be shown.
Very good. Another question. What should be done to continue downtown revitalization? What should be done to continue downtown revitalization? Mr. Muskie.
I sit on the Mid-Minnesota Development Commission, and I can be proud to say that we give out revolving loans, and we just put a loan to Building 313, which houses the Hub and the Foxhole Brewery, which a lot of my family apparently likes a lot, so I've had growlers from there. I think the more we bring those destination things back into downtown, it will revitalize the downtown. We've talked about making a downtown historic district with tax credits and things for people that wanted to upgrade, do changes to their businesses. Those types of things that can bring things into the downtown are very, very attractive to me. I told you I was part of a project where we interviewed folks that basically grew up in Willmar in the 40s and the 50s, and we talked to people all the way up to today. And when you see how Willmar has changed, it's absolutely fascinating. We're hopefully going to get some of those things on Rack 8 when we're all finished with our project. But I love downtown Willmar. I frequent many of the businesses downtown. I am very involved in its future, and I'm obviously a big fan of its past. And so anything that you can put in front of me that talks about the revitalization of downtown, I'm going to take the time to take a look at it, because I absolutely love downtown Willmar.
Mr. Butterfield.
I'm all for what Sean said on giving tax incentives for down there. My office is downtown Willmar. I look out and I'm watching the new construction of a parking lot getting redesigned. That's going to help with traffic flow for my business, for my clientels and people coming in looking for work to help park, because right now there's very little parking, and I've gotten a few parking tickets downtown Willmar because I get tied up doing some administrative stuff. And so I've contributed probably about $20 this year to the city of Willmar for overstaying my parking, but that's one thing happens when you work downtown, and I'm all for helping the businesses out. One thing I think we need to do is get in, talk with all the building owners and business owners and get them motivated that they want to dress it up, make a few changes, get motivated to do that. It's not like it was 40 years ago, 30 years ago, when they had crazy days and all the businesses downtown had tables sitting outside their shops, and they all communicated to progress the downtown area. So we need to kind of bring a little bit of that enthusiasm back to the owners and the business places.
In seeking this office, have you spoken to Somali and Hispanic residents and business owners? If not, why not? In seeking this office, have you spoken to Somali and Hispanic residents and business owners? If not, why not? Mr. Butterfield.
In seeking this office, no, I have not talked to any of them right now. I've been more concentrated on my livelihood, on my job. I do have a couple Somalians out working for me, and I am working with getting probably another half dozen places that, once I get them out working, they have great communication skills. They say this, they're hiring, you know, and I don't discriminate one way or the other. So right now, what I'm focusing on are getting them out working on the ones that aren't working, and I got a couple clients that are working with me to get these people placed.
Very good. Mr. Muskie.
Yes, I have. I don't know if I should call them out by name. I don't know if they would want me to, but I have talked to several members of both of the communities that you specifically talked about as far as Somali and Latino communities. I don't know if I would be out of line, but I will say Anis Eman, Abdiali Alo, these are people that I have talked to and have actually had the pleasure of actually interviewing and talking about their immigration stories that are part of the project that I was working on with history. Absolutely fascinating obstacles that these folks had to overcome to call Willmar their home. And they are part of this community. And I will always engage anyone who is part of this community. And so indeed, why would I not talk to members of those communities? They're members of the city, and they're members of my ward, and I will continue to consult them through this entire process.
What in your view is the greatest challenge facing the City Council? What in your view is the greatest challenge facing the City Council? We'll begin with Mr. Muskie.
That's a great question, Andrea. I think that probably one of the biggest things is separating the professional from personal. We waste a lot of time, it seems. Now, I, of course, am not on the council. I have the luxury of being able to watch from a distance. But it does seem like we waste a lot of time on personalities and people that are a part of the council and not focused as much as we should be on the people of the city of Willmar. And I guess that I see as the biggest issue. And I also see, you know, the employees of the city of Willmar seem to be micromanaged by the council in a lot of ways and are not allowed to do their jobs. So I'm thinking those two particular pieces are, to me, major obstacles. And I think all we can do is lead by example and, you know, and call that out when we see it. That will create conflict, but I am not afraid of that. I've dealt with lots of conflicts. I told you I was a college teacher. I get conflicts every day, and I welcome that. I think we need to keep moving this city forward.
Mr. Butterfield.
You know, that's one of the points I was actually decided to run for city council, was because of this disarray that's going on in there right now. You know, I don't know all what started it, how it all happened, or anything else like that. I've always been on the outside. But I know the city needs help, and that's where I'm stepping up to the plate. I do love and care about the city so much that I'm putting my integrity, my accountability, my strong work ethic, and my leadership. And that's one thing that the city council is missing, is some good leadership to move the city forward. And I want to see Willmar prosper, and that's why I signed up to run for city council.
Do you think that the city organizational structure needs to be changed? And why or why not? Do you think the city organizational structure needs to be changed? Why or why not? Mr. Butterfield.
Well, that's something I would have to talk with city staff, see what their feelings would be. I'm not going to come in here and make quick changes, do everything else, you know, just off the seat of the whim. I want to be fair and honest to everybody, and I'm going to need input from the city staff on what they want.
Okay, Mr. Muskie.
As far as the staff, I would not think that an organization needs to change. I was pondering the question you asked earlier. I think I would probably want to see the establishment, however, of a Heritage Preservation Commission. We currently do not have one, but most of the cities that are the size of Willmar tend to have a Heritage Preservation Commission. We have a very proud heritage here. We are a railroad town in history, and I think that needs to be celebrated. And so a commission like that would deal with specific issues in downtown and development of that area, keeping in mind, again, our historic background. So if I had to change one thing, I would just add that particular commission, and again, I would get the Human Rights Commission moving again.
Very good. What experience, if any, do you have with labor negotiations? What experience, if any, do you have with labor negotiations? Mr. Muskie.
I have been a faculty union president for 4 years. I have a lot of experience with negotiations of contracts. On the city, or on the school board, we also had to do negotiations there as well. So I've actually negotiated contracts on both sides of a table as an employee and as an employer. It can be a messy job, but I'm prepared to roll up my sleeves and continue to do that process. I understand how it works on both ends. And again, I've mentioned it before, I'll mention it again. You have to have the ability to compromise, and you have to have the ability to listen. And I think that I have both of those, and I think that would not be a big problem for me to step into that position.
Very good. Mr. Butterfield.
You know, that's a great question, and honestly, that's my type of business. I go call on business to do hiring for, and that's part of my job, is I negotiate what my rate is to what the workers are getting. And actually, right now, I'm actually getting $15, $16 an hour for jobs that I'm paying my workers that 3 years ago I was only getting $12 an hour for. We're hurting for workers in the Willmar, West Central Minnesota area. And of course, with that, I do have to run off of a margin, what we need to make it profitable for our company. And I'm lowering my margin because we're paying our workers more. So in the aspect, I'm seeing it all sorts. I'm negotiating my bill rate to my pay rate and doing everything like that, trying to get the most for the workers.
Next question. What is going right in the city of Willmar? What is going right in the city of Willmar? Mr. Butterfield.
The thing I can see is people are excited about this election, and we need that. We need the enthusiasm. We need people out there that are positive. I'm sorry to see Jim Dockin go. He has some problems and decided to part ways, but he's served our community very well. But this is revitalizing the people out there in the community. They're looking for somebody new, fresh, to come in and take, help out with the leadership of the city.
Mr. Muskie.
I'm trying to write a list, but it's getting so long. There's a lot of great things here. We have great amenities. Our parks are run down, that is true, and we're fixing them. But we have the ability here to do just about any kind of activity you may want. There was a park that does it, from Frisbee golf through horseshoe and so on. It is a great place to raise a family. And goods and services, we've got great economic development happening here. We have great commercial properties all the time. We could probably use a few more industries. We'll have to work on that. We have a wonderful hospital. We have wonderful utilities. We have wonderful people. There is a lot of things that are very positive for the city. And if we concentrated more on them, this would be a great place. It's a great place already, but it could be better.
For those that may have just recently joined us, I just want to repeat the phone number in case you have a question that you would like to bring to the floor. The phone number to call is 320-212-2285. 320-212-2285, and we'll be happy to receive your questions. On to another question. What experience, if any, do you have with setting policy and governance? What experience, if any, do you have with setting policy and governance? Mr. Muskie.
Well, I've taken courses in policy and governance as part of my doctorate program in higher ed administration. I have been on policy committees since I started at Ridgewater College. On the school board, I was part of policy development. I'm part of the Willmar Charter Commission, where we deal with policy. I'm on the policy committee for the Mid-Minnesota Development Commission. I'm one of those nerds that live and breathe policy. My friends will say, why and how do you like to do policy? And I can't tell them an answer. I was made for policy, and this position is policy, and so it is a natural fit for me. If they had a shirt that said, I'm a policy geek, I would have one. I absolutely believe policy is what governs things. That's the rules. And for some reason, I have this attraction to doing and working with policy.
Mr. Butterfield.
I have none. I am a true rookie politician. I don't know too much about it. but I do have enthusiasm and ability to learn and to strive for it. There's people in this room, there's people in the city of Wilmer that have seen my enthusiasm. When I want something, I'm not afraid to go out and try to get it. And I am willing to learn and learn all what it's going to take to get the job done on that.
Very good. Wilmer is a diverse city. How would you work to improve intercultural communications in Wilmer? How would you work to improve intercultural communication in Wilmer? Mr. Butterfield.
Well, that's great. I am all for diversity, no matter what race, sex, religion you are. I'm all for, the melting pot going on. And right now, my biggest barrier is with the Somalian group that is some of them have very limited English, and I have to tell them, have them bring back an interpreter. They've gone up to Workforce Center. Workforce Center's called me up. They've sent the interpreter down so I can help them out, fill out our applications, and talk to them about the job process. And on the Spanish side, I actually went out and hired a bilingual person 4 or 5 years ago that I knew had great customer service skills, didn't know anything about the job. We trained her in. She's doing very well on the job. But that helps me out with the Spanish because I don't know Spanish either. So, I mean, I'm all about learning and finding the way to get the job done.
Mr. Muskie.
The Human Rights Commission, I've already said it before, I'll say it again, that was a conduit to hearing from people in underrepresented classes, whether that be ethnic, or we had LGBT issues that would flow through that. Without having that conduit, it's sort of plugged that message to the council. That needs to be reestablished. Not being afraid to place and nominate people onto committees and commissions from different walks of life. It seems like I don't know if we're afraid to do this, but it's something that has to happen. And the cultural exchanges are happening. They're happening all over the place. I mean, I see Anglo folks going into ethnic businesses and vice versa. That every time that happens, it makes this a better place. I'm thinking lately of our Muslim friends. Some of them, they wanted to celebrate Eid outside, and they did it at Robbins Island. That was a huge thing that brings this community forward. Cinco de Mayo celebrations, these types of things are all good, and we need to keep encouraging those things. My children, they're best friends. I mean, I have an elementary student, a child, all their friends are of different ethnicities, and that's great. It's basically our generations that have to learn to adapt to new cultures. Our children have already done it, and it's going to serve them well. I mean, this is a multicultural place. This country is great. Our kids are prepared. We're the ones that have to do the cultural learning.
Mr. Butterfield.
I already answered.
You already answered.
Oh, I'm sorry. Usually happens to me once. Based on your skills and experience, in which committees would your participation be most beneficial and why? Based on your skills and experiences, on which committees would you participate and you would benefit most from that experience? Should we start with?
Don't matter.
We'll start with Mr. Muskie.
I would actually feel comfortable on almost all of them. I like finance. I like planning. I think as long as we're working policy, I'm going to be pretty comfortable on any of those committees. I'm just looking through. I'm thinking I might. The one I wouldn't know more about is some of the commissions that we have. Airport Commission, Patrick Curry's on it. That's a great thing, but it's not one of our committees. But otherwise, looking at the committee list, I'd feel comfortable on just about any of them. So wherever the vacancies were, I would be more than happy to pinch hit and get in there.
Very good. Mr. Butterfield.
The Finance Committee I would definitely want to be on. I'm a single parent raising a son. I have to budget for everything. There's times in my life I'm able to afford the little perks. So that one I would be very comfortable being on, and also like the Park and Recs Board. I do have the product knowledge to help move the city forward on getting new parks built up and stuff like that. So, I could come to table with a lot of that, and any other board that they would want me to be on, I'd be willing to learn it.
Very good. Another question. What in your view, is the greatest challenge facing the citizens in the city of Willmar? What, in your view, is the greatest challenge facing the citizens in the city of Willmar? Mr. Butterfield.
Well, right now, I'd have to say, it's the number of cultures we do have going on here, people aren't understanding, and it's just like Sean said, our kids are not going to be having the problem. It's going to be the adults that are having the problem with the language barrier and stuff like that. So, as a community, we're going to have to get together and sit down with everybody in the community and find out what needs to be done to help do this. Right now, it's just a language barrier, I think, is going on.
Mr. Muskie.
Getting their voices heard. I think that might be one of the issues, at least as the city council is concerned, is the citizens are frustrated that their voices are not heard. And so I guess they also have to, they've already exhibited patience, but apparently we may have to do a little bit more, because I haven't seen a lot of movement on some of that. And so the ethnic pieces that you were referencing, sure, those are those voices. And again, not all those voices are heard with the same listening, if you will, of the ears of our city. So that would be a major obstacle for the citizens of the city. Also, I would say another obstacle would be perhaps getting, maybe, well, I'm just going to leave it there. I think the voices are enough. My mom has said, if you don't have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. And I think I'll take that advice. But truly, we need voices heard, and heard from all people, not just select folks.
What experience, if any, do you have with the protection of private data? What experience, if any, do you have with the protection of private data? Mr. Muskie.
Again, on the city, or on the school board, we dealt with private data all the time. In my job, I work with private data every day. And it's your responsibility when you're working with that private data to know what you can and cannot do with that data. If I have, for instance, student evaluation, and a parent asks me for that, I can't share that unless the parent signs a waiver that says that can happen. And when there is private data, in particular when you're serving in a public office, if there's private data, and it's within the realm that you can actually go into closed session, you certainly can do that to talk about that, but you better know what that means to go into closed session. And sometimes we may get that wrong here on the city council of what you can go into private closed session and what you cannot, and that's back to that open meeting law piece again. But private data is a fairly serious violation. You don't want to be sharing private data because it's private for a reason. And so I've used it, I've seen it, I've operated with my job as well as many of the committees I've served on.
Mr. Butterfield.
I'm all for it. I deal with it every day. I have the county sending over, wage verifications for people. Sometimes they'll call me up on the phone from Child Support Division, and I'll say I need the, sign and release. I will not give out any information without a sign and release. I have other employers calling me for job references on them. I will not give out any information without a sign and release. It's too touchy of a subject. I even have workers calling in that want me to give their information over the phone. I actually make them come to my office to obtain it because I don't know who's on the other end of the phone. I take privacy very, very serious.
Good. I think this will be our last question before we have closing remarks. The City Council receives input, requests, and suggestions from a variety of organized community groups, such as Willmar Fest, the Willmar Gun Club, Vision 2040, Moving Willmar Forward, the League of Women Voters, the Chamber of Commerce, the EDC. Are you willing to work with these groups? Are there any groups that you would not be willing to work with? Mr. Butterfield.
I'm willing to work with any group, like I said at the very beginning. I'm coming in with an open mind. I'm going to look at the full situation, see what's going on. I'd want to see their agenda. I know on the Willmar Fest, it's just not what it used to be. This last year I went down to it with my son. We were gone, and I took the neighbor kid with. We ended up going bowling because there just wasn't the activities there. When I was a kid growing up, downtown used to just be packed full of stuff to do, you know, from carnivals to bingo to dunk tanks. It's just not, Wilmerfest is just not having it anymore, and we need to do something because that's supposed to be help generate income for people coming from out of town into Wilmer, and we're not getting that right now. So I'm willing to listen to whatever it is, see the agenda, you know, see how we're going to spend tax dollars and make sure we're going to return of profit on our investment.
Very good. Mr. Muskie.
Any citizen effort deserves to be heard by the council. That's a bottom line. Any citizen group needs to be heard by the council. Good ideas can be found in the most unlikely of places, and we won't know them if we don't take an opportunity to hear them. We should never stop looking for new ideas, because when we do, we stagnate. And saying that you're not going to listen to this group or that group is not productive for the city. You may not like what they have to say, but you know what? There could be something in there that spurs on some conversation elsewhere. And when we stop listening, again, we won't be moving this city forward. We're a diverse community, and that diversity is an asset. And if we don't hear from that diversity, we'll probably have many missed opportunities. And so, no, there would be no group that I would not listen to. And every citizen group would have my ear.
Thank you. Thank you to both of you for answering a number of questions. We got through several of them. Now it's time for closing remarks, and we are going to begin with 2 minutes for each, starting with Mr. Muskie and ending with Mr. Butterfield. Mr. Muskie.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you again for this opportunity. I've mentioned it. I'm a student of Wilmer history, and I've just completed that project I mentioned, supported by the Canada County Historical Society, Wilmer Downtown Transitions. I'm a fan of history. Effective decision-making, in my opinion, should always consider historical context. Without a knowledge of the past, we're destined to repeat our mistakes. And so I'm a strong advocate for strategic planning. Without a plan with specific goals, we've moved forward without direction or risk being stuck in that past. Strategic planning and initiatives such as Vision 2040 provide direction. Effective decision-making employs a vision for the future, and good data informs those good decisions. The City Council relies on city staff, its residents, and outside sources to provide the best information available to make those decisions. Therefore, I believe the most effective decision-making combines the knowledge of the past, information of the present, and a vision for the future. And so you'll see on my signs, past, present, future, because I believe that's the most effective way that you should be making decisions. It's more than a slogan. It's how I will approach decision-making on this council. I believe Wilmer's best days are ahead of her. I stand with those who believe we can improve this city and the future of this city and not just dwell on the past. And so if you stand with me, we stand united for a better Wilmer, and I would appreciate your vote on November 10th.
Mr. Butterfield.
Well, basically, I'm a fifth generation here in Wilmer, Minnesota, and I've seen Wilmer grow. I've seen all the good parts, all the bad parts, growing up and living in Wilmer here. I had a great life growing up. I have a great job. My parents raised me very well. I want my son to grow up, have the same opportunities I had, from running, playing out at the parks, going to Robbins Island, although we need to do some little bit of work out there, get with DNR on a few things. But I been born and raised in Wilmer, and I'm looking forward to bringing integrity, accountability, communication, strong work ethic back to the City Council. You know, you can count on me being respectful for your tax dollars on how they're spent, and you can count on me to do my best to be a unifying voice on the City Council, try to pull the city back together. And basically, we need to think bigger and imagine the possibilities of the future for Wilmer. You know, Sean brought up a lot of point on historical facts on the city, and here's some that Sean should know. With the Historical Society, my grandfather and his relatives donated a lot of the railroad exhibits out there. My great-great-grandfather, Andrew Railson, helped name Norway Lake. He was also a past village president of Wilmer. He's also one of the main reasons why the Candido County seat got changed from Candido High to Wilmer. And again, my name is Tom Butterfield, and I would appreciate your vote.
Thank you to both of you. We really appreciate our evening together. The Wilmer Area League of Women Voters really has great gratitude for the two of you and others who step forward and run for public office. We certainly thank our audience for coming here tonight and for listening on KWLM and also seeing us on RAC 8 and 18. I think it's very important that the community of Wilmer realizes what's happening in our community. We're really finding that there's much more engagement. We, as league members, find there are many more questions asked. There's some good discussion. We believe in civil discourse, and tonight's a perfect example of that. So much thanks to our radio station, KWLM, and RAC 8 and 18 for a very fine hour of discussion. We appreciate it.